looking good. It's looking like we're actually in and logged on. What if other Twitch streams have this problem too? Never mind. Right, so yeah, we've invested in a new computer. It's very exciting. So that we can run Twitch via the internet, and so we can interview people that aren't sitting around our house, and that we don't have to go around their house to see, which is double exciting. It's very hot today, which is probably why none of the servers for any of our services are working. So we're going what we got. So sorry we're a little bit late, but we finally got logged on, and here we are. Especially sorry to John, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday, John. Who was going to come and help conduct this interview, but we can't make the internet work, so it's just me. But what I promised John was story time earlier on when he asked a question about someone. And so this is a chance for the first time I get sued for libel or slander or something, which is very exciting. So let's go for it. I'm going to talk about how I remember the history of LARP. Now, this might not be true, and it might not be accurate, and it might not portray the people that I'm going to talk about in the best of lights, but this is what I remember happening. So start the hate now, get into the comments. All right, so I've been LARPing a really long time. When I started LARPing, it wasn't very long after Treasure Trap had stopped running. And what I seem to remember around those times was in sort of the north of England, there was a club called Spirit of Adventure. And in the south of England, there was a club called Labyrinth. And they basically both ran a LARP. Now, I believe the story I heard is the person running Labyrinth thought that having a site, a permanent site, was a very important thing. And the person running Spirit of Adventure thought that was a lesser important thing as long as you had regularly used sites. The rules were more important. But Labyrinth still exists, Spirit of Adventure doesn't so much. So, right, so way back then, when they were running, there were a few other little clubs dotted around the country picking up people, but LARP wasn't really very well known until a magazine called GM magazine came along, and GM and its follow-up GMI magazine, which were both very similar, but they talked about LARP in a way that no other publication was, and the closest was adverts for Labyrinth in White Dwarf, and occasional just sort of flame wars on the letters page. Not very much. But when we saw GM magazine, something it said in there, it talked about a group called Fools and Heroes. Fools and Heroes also still run to this day. Fools and Heroes have got lots of branches all over the country, and traditionally they came together, all the branches, to an event called Summerfest, which is still running, and everyone came along and played it, and it was lovely. Now, the rest of us LARPers read GM magazine and read that there's this event at Drum Hill each August bank holiday weekend for LARP. So everybody went. Now, shortly afterwards, I chatted to one of the people that purported to be one of the organisers. And they said they'd written plot for about 300 people, or 500 people or something. 300 people is about the norm. But 1,200 people turned up, so it got a little bit crowded. There were various allegations and all sorts of things made, but my recollection, which might not be correct, and I'm sure somebody will turn up to tell me I'm wrong somewhere, was that one of the people running Summerfest sort of looked around and thought, you know, if I ran this properly, we could make a fest here. And so they copyrighted the name Summerfest so they could run it the following year. And they also copyrighted the rules for the game. Somebody said to this person, all right, so you're running Summerfest next year? And they said, yeah, I am. And the person said, oh, where are you running it? And they said, I'm running at Drum Hill in Derbyshire. So, all right, okay. When are you running it? August bank holiday weekend. Oh, that's funny, because I've booked the site for that weekend, so Summerfest can't be running there because I've booked it. And this was the beginning of a variety of disasters, but that's when the gathering started, and we all descended upon Drum Hill. And frankly, us players didn't really care whether it was called the Gathering or Summerfest or Ujima flipped in to what's it. We all turned up, we did some LARPing, we got drunk, we ran around in some woods, we hit each other with rubber sticks. It was very exciting. So yeah, that's how Summerfest sort of begat the Gathering. And then further, from my recollection, was the Gathering started running, and it was run by a company, I think, it was run, the Gathering started, and it was the Lorien Trust of people getting together to run an event. The thing was, back then, LARP wasn't really very, very successful, and a lot of work went into it, but not a lot of money came out of it, which is often the way in LARP. So people had to support it and pay for things. And after a certain amount of time, the story I heard, which again may be wrong, was that Andy King had paid for a lot of stuff, like the ritual circle and the lights and things in there, and covered a lot of the costs involved in running the Gathering in his early years. And he sort of said, well, look, I run this. It's all very nice that you join in and help, but this is mine. And that's when, as far as I can recall, it became Merlin Root rather than the Lorien Trust. And it was a separate company run by Andy, and he ran the Lorien Trust. At about this time, some people that had been involved in running the Lorien Trust got quite disgruntled that they were now sort of shunted onto the outside, and it was Andy's way or the highway. And so they went away and they started Curious Pastimes. So then we had the Lorien Trust and Curious Pastimes, and Summerfest was in a little bit of turmoil because the person that had copyrighted it wasn't really running it or running Summerfest or anything else, but still sort of owned it. So I believe an agreement came where Summerfest could still run and the rules could still go ahead, although his name had to be put into the front of them. And so Summerfest carries on to this day. The person who copyrighted it, I think he turned up to Summerfest sometime later to see what was going on and see if there was much to be made of it. And I can remember him sort of lauding it up a bit as one of the founders of Fools and Heroes to much newer club members. Tragically, I was there and I just took the piss. But these are the ways of things. Anyway, that's a little bit of the history of LARP as I remember it. Maybe next time, if we haven't got the computer working, what I'll do is I'll talk about the history of LARP, and I'll talk about how Profound Decisions begat from many places. That'll be exciting. So yeah, happy birthday, John. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope everyone else enjoyed this. Tell your friends. Eventually we'll put it on YouTube. I should probably show more energy or something. Whee! But I'm not going to show energy. Right, so now I'm going away. And that's the end of this thing, this stream. And if I was a proper clever YouTube streamer or something, I would have a button rather than just pressing the end button by leaning forwards, which isn't very professional. But hey, can't have everything in life, can you? Alright, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Or see you in the field. That'll do too. Alright, take care. Bye-bye.